Happy Wednesday, readers. Today for reading workshop, you're going to need a glue stick, sticky notes, your reading notebook, and your green ELA resource folder that's inside of your anchor binder. Remember, don't take this folder out, keep it inside of your anchor binder, but you're going to want to open it up. Just a reminder, last week you came by to get your next supply pickup, and the pages that were in your green construction paper folder, you should have placed the reading teach pages on the left hand side and the writing on the right hand side. So make sure that you are looking at the video to see which packet goes into which pocket so you can be prepared for our lessons. Because we're in reading, we're going to go ahead and take the next teach page, which says fix up strategies repairing comprehension. The rest of the pages keep inside and keep paper clipped. Close your green folder, make sure that it's still in your anchor binder, and then tuck that in your basket for you to use later today. We're going to then go to our reading notebook and open up to yesterday's lesson where we were monitoring for meaning using our text annotations. So we're using symbols as we read. We were going to then put some notes or explanations of why we used the symbol we did as we were reading to help us better understand the text from the author. So we read the story of the Wretched Stone together. We did the first 3 symbols with the explanations, and then you were asked to continue to make some for our modeling. Then during independent work, you were asked to continue to read on Epic. Tell me the title of your story on your sticky note, using at least 3 symbols as you were reading to monitor that understanding, and then give me the explanations of why you chose the symbols you did at that point in the story. Today we're moving on to our next page, so we're going to put at page 32, and then we're going to turn back to our table of contents. We're going to insert page 32, and we are continuing working on how do we monitor for meaning as we read, but today we're going to be focusing on fix-up strategies. So we're going to write the same reading strategy, but this is a second part. So yesterday we worked on the text annotations, so making symbols to help with our understanding, and today we're going to work on how do we fix our understanding if that is something that breaks down. So fix up strategies. Remember, you may pause the video at any time to get yourself caught up, and then push play when you're ready to move on. And then we place today's date. So we're going to go head back to page 32. The page that we had just ripped out, we're going to go ahead and glue in. So you need your glue stick. And we're going to go ahead and make that framed box on the outside and then crisscross in the middle to make sure that it's nice and sticky. Make sure you always try to go to the bottom of the page, give yourself enough room, and then rewrite your page number if needed. So today we're going to be focusing on how can we fix up our understanding if there is a breakdown in comprehension. So there are some steps that we're going to learn that we can then use depending on how our understanding has broken down. So some of the strategies are listed here. So we're going to go through them, and then we're going to model how we can apply these when we read a poem. So today we're going to be looking at the 10 that are used. So we're going to just box fix up strategies. And then we're going to read through the notes. So the first one that we might apply is when we're reading, we might need to reread. So I'm just going to underline the keywords. Reread what you just read. And it tells us not to keep reading. We might just have to stop and reread a phrase or a word to see if we can have a better understanding a second time or a third time or more. A second fix-up strategy could be we might need to read it out loud. So if we were reading silently, sometimes when we try to sound out a word or we hear the word, it helps us better understand what that word might mean. The third one is using context clues. So let's go back to number 2. We're going to underline out loud. The next one, context clues, we're going to underline the word context. So it says to use the words around it. So we're going to box words around it to figure out a word or its meaning. So oftentimes the word the author has placed around an unknown word or phrase will help give us clues on the author's intent. Number 4 is to look up a word you don't know. So we definitely want to utilize our dictionaries or glossaries. And since we're on the computer, we have a great resource right at our fingertips. So using that computer or dictionary to find out what it means. Number 5, the 5th strategy is to ask questions. So we definitely want to underline this. So you can ask yourself those questions we've talked about as a reading strategy. So questions you might ask before you start reading, during your reading, or after will help us better gauge our understanding of what the author is asking us to learn. Number 6 is to think about what you've already read. So thinking about what has happened with our characters, how the author is already describing the situation that they might be in or the problem that they're facing might help us better understand the current circumstances. So we're going to underline what you've already read. Number 7 is asking us to make those connections. And this is also a strategy we've already talked about. Connections can be made to yourself in your own personal life. It could be to a previous text, or it could be to the world around ourselves. Number 8 is to slow down. So we're going to underline slow down. This is just a reminder for us not to rush. It's not a race. We make sure that we take our time because understanding takes time. We have to allow ourselves to process new information to then be able to start putting pieces of a puzzle together for our understanding. Number 9 is to think about the author's purpose. And this is going to help us understand why they're giving us the information they are on that current page. Is a vocabulary word important to better understand our character or their situation? Or is a problem or an event is occurring, and that's going to be important for our problem solving later? So what is the author trying to tell us? And then number 10 is to pay attention what you're thinking. So we're going to underline your thinking. So don't ignore your thoughts as you read. You are a skilled reader, so we definitely want to put your thoughts to our understanding. Today we're going to be reading a poem. The poem is going to be attached to your assignment, so you can print it out if you want to have your own copy, but I'm going to zoom in on mine so we can then be able to use this with our sticky note. So you're being asked to use a sticky note, and I'm going to try to place it where you can see it a little bit better. So our poem today is called A Dust of Snow. So at the top, we're going to put our title, A Dust of Snow, and then underline it just as a reminder that this is the text that we're using for our modeling. So we're going to go ahead and model how we can use fix-up strategies with a poem called A Dust of Snow by Robert Frost. So we have written the title at the top of our sticky note. And as we read, we're going to then look back at our fix-up strategies to see which ones would help us with our understanding of this poem. A Dust of Snow by Robert Frost. The way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree, has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I rued. So we read it the first time to see what the words were, but now we need to go back and analyze the text because we know that a poem often has deeper meaning for us to then understand the author's intent for writing it. So we preview the title, A Dust of Snow, and as we reread this, we're going to then need to see what strategies can we use to better understand what Robert Frost was meaning by his words. So the first strategy we're going to use, and we're going to make a note, is that we're having a reread. Because the first time we read a poem, we often miss a lot of the hidden meaning of the word choices and how words are actually placed together. So please write down fix-up strategy, reread. The next part, we're going to reread it again. It says, the way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. So I noticed something in my poem so far, that when we look at the end of each of the little lines, we see that the first and the third line actually rhyme because we have crow and snow. The same apply for the second and fourth. So we have the words me and tree. So I'm going to take a pen to just underline with the same color to show the rhyming patterns. So I'm gonna actually box the word crow and the word snow, and then I'll use a different color to box the word me and tree. So we're understanding the way that the author is actually writing the words. We continue reading, has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part. Part rhymes with heart. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to use a third color to box heart and part. And then I can go back and look back. It says a change of mood of a day I rued. So mood and rude are also rhyming words. So one thing that we saw when we reread, we could see that there was a rhyming pattern of how they created the lines of the poem. Well, I noticed that there are some words that I wasn't sure why they were using them. So when I go back to the first stanza, and a stanza is the first grouping of lines of a poem, it says the way a crow, well, I know a crow is a type of bird, shook down on me the dust of snow. I see the word dust, and I'm wondering why the author has used that word of snow. So I know that snow is something that falls, and I see the words shook down. So I'm using my context clues to understand what does the author mean by this. So when I think of the word dust, I think of the dust that collects around our house when it hasn't been dusted or wiped away. So it's little particles or little pieces of snow. So I can even look that up to make sure with the definition, or I can use those context clues to say little pieces. So when I look at my fix-up strategies, we're using our context clues to help with some of the unknown phrases or word choice. When we continue reading and we see a description of the little pieces of snow from a hemlock tree, I don't know if I've ever heard of what a hemlock tree might be. So this might be something I use my computer or dictionary to look up. And when I looked up the words hemlock tree, that's kind of referring to a tree that kind of looks like a Christmas tree. So when I think of a Christmas tree, I think of nice, luscious green branches. And then when they add on the pieces of snow, I think of outside, maybe in the woods, and there's usually a lot of snow covering in my mind when I see this statement. So when I reread it again, the way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. So I envision in my head that a crow is landing possibly on a branch, and I just happened to be walking by and got myself all messy because now I'm all wet from the snow. So when we're looking at our fix-up strategies, we're using our context clues to see what the words that we're not sure of or the phrases might mean. We're also rereading for better understanding. I'm reading out loud, and if I had originally read this to myself, I might want to read it out loud to find those rhyming patterns. We use the looking up a word, so let's go ahead and place those. So we read out loud. And we're looking up words. When we continue to read the second stanza, it says, has given my heart a change of mood. So when I see that phrase, change of mood, and then I go back and look at the context clues of given my heart, so I can see that the writer was saying that maybe he wasn't really caring for getting himself all messy from this crow, dusting him with all that snow. So if it suddenly changes mood, well, then I need to figure out, well, what was his original mood? Was he in a happy mood and then became in a poor mood, or was it the other way around? So I need to continue to read to make those connections. So has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I rued. So when I think of it's a changing of my mood and it saves some part, so this tells me that I might make a connection that if something's saving my mood or changing my heart, I'm probably looking at it at it now in a positive experience. So maybe I was having a pretty crummy day originally, and because this crow suddenly changed the thought process I might be having or change my day in this natural way, I can see that rude, when I look that up, it's meaning that I'm regretting something. So if my day was something that I regretted, or I wasn't having a very good day, and I'm now having that change of heart, I can then see, well, this little nature event or this little event in my day might have changed my outlook and maybe took me out of my negative thoughts and brought me back into perspective of understanding that my day can turn around in a little instance. So as we were reading this poem the first time, we might not have had that deeper connection of what Robert Frost was trying to explain to us. But as we applied some fix-up strategies, we could ask ourselves questions. We had some that we took note of, but we really used almost all of these, asking what the author's purpose was, paying attention to what we're thinking, putting ourselves in the author's shoes. This helped us with our understanding of the text. So I'm going to place my poem with my sticky note right on this page, so it's nice and stuck. And then for your independent work for today's reading strategy, you're going to be reading a second poem. This poem is going to be attached in your assignment. You can either read it right there on the computer screen, or you can print it out. So it's called Antigonish, I Met a Man Who Wasn't There. So when you read this poem, I want you to rewrite the title at the top of a second sticky note. And then I want you to think about what context clues or which fix-up strategies are you using to better understand the text. So we did this with A Dust of Snow. I want you to do this on your own, telling me which fix-up strategy helps you better understand this poem. Then you're going to take a picture of today's lesson with the Dust of Snow sticky note, with your sticky note for the classwork Antigonish, and then go ahead and submit those to today's lesson.